That Metal Interview.
Hello out there, everybody. Welcome to this episode of That Metal Interview podcast here on jrocksmetalzone.com. This guy needs no introduction. 2 words, Headbanger's Ball. Yes, you guessed it right. The rock metal TV show Headbanger's Ball on MTV. This guy was the co-host for the show from 1990 to 1995. The iconic TV host also owned and ran the infamous CATHOUSE in California. From 1986 to 1992, the CATHOUSE was at the epicenter of the Hollywood rock scene. Some of the biggest bands in the world would play unannounced shows at the CATHOUSE. Bands like Faster Pussycat, Guns N' Roses, Motorhead, Alice Cooper, Pearl Jam, Black Crowes, and many, many other bands would perform at the CATHOUSE. Rachtman and the CATHOUSE are featured in the Penelope Spheres documentary The Decline of Western Civilization Part 2, The Metal Years. You guys need to check that out if you haven't. This guy grew up in Van Nuys, California. By the age of 16, he was singing in the band Angry Samoans, then with the Fairlanes. In the late 80s, Rachtman was the lead vocalist of the LA metal act Virgin. And in the 90s, he spent over a year in a band called Battery Club, which toured with The Offspring. The very well-known band, The Offspring, yep. Rachtman also had a brief appearance as a waiting guest in Guns N' Roses' music video for November Rain. From August of 92 to January of 96, Riki co-hosted the radio advice program Love Line with Dr. Drew Pinsky and Adam Carolla. Rachtman also worked for World Championship Wrestling as a backstage interviewer, also co-hosted WCW Nitro, and the list goes on. So here is our exclusive interview with Riki Rachtman.
Hey, Ibarra, J-Rock's Metal Zone here with Riki Rachtman. Rick, first of all, welcome to Eagle Pass. How's it been so far?
It was good. I got in last night. I hung out at Cooter's Bar for a while and met a bunch of people out here, and just good people here. I mean, I had a good time. I like going to town and hanging out with the people in the town, and I had a real good time. They're treating me good here, and it's fun. It's a bunch of people that like rock and roll, so it's a good time so far.
I mean, I got so many things that I want to, pick your brain on, but, first and foremost, I mean, you are the owner, the proprietor of a big time place in LA, and I'm talking about, the LA scene that a lot of us guys, I'm in my 50s, when the heydays of the late mid to late 80s were happening. Talk to me a little bit about the scene and talk to me a little bit about your club.
Well, the CATHOUSE, it's now closed. It's been closed for a while, but I have a podcast, the CATHOUSE Hollywood Podcast, that tells all the stories about all the bands that played there. But not only like our house band was kind of Guns N' Roses. That's who used to play there all the time. And all the biggest bands in the world played there. But it wasn't just the bands that played there that made the CATHOUSE famous. It was just like the craziness and debauchery and, being around in that time was so insane. So much crazy stuff happened. And we tell those stories on the podcast, so it's really fun.
Now, talk to me about the connections between LA Guns and Guns N' Roses.
Well, LA Guns and Guns N' Roses, I mean, Tracy Guns started Guns N' Roses with Axl, and then they went their separate ways, so there's always that history. And even, back in the early 80s, we all came from this small area of Hollywood, where Guns N' Roses, LA Guns, Faster Pussycat, Jane's Addiction, we all came from that same area, so, for everybody, it's just all these big bands, but for guys like me, it's kind of weird because it's all our friends just ended up becoming big rock stars, so it's kind of neat.
What was Hollywood Rose?
Well, that was a little bit before my time. That was just a band that Axl had going on, and and I don't remember everybody that was in it, but it was right before there was Guns N' Roses.
And we all, I had a young man who suffered from muscular dystrophy, and he would record every episode of Headbangers Ball without commercials religiously. And some of his favorite things were the interviews that you did, with the bands. I mean, what are some things that Eagle Pass people might not know that happened behind the scenes at MTV?
The stuff that happened in front of everybody was pretty crazy on Headbangers Ball, with the Alice in Chains water park shows and all the fun times with Pantera and Ozzy and Megadeth and Slayer. And a lot of people thought that me and Dave Mustaine from Megadeth had this huge feud, but the truth is, like, a lot of the bands that gave me a hard time on TV were actually my friends, because when you hang out with your friends, you give each other a hard time. That's what you do. So a lot of them were like actually friends, and it just looked like we had beef with each other, but that was always more entertaining.
And the interesting thing to me was how you came about becoming a VJ. They had a falling out with somebody, and
no, not really. I mean, the show was doing fine, but then I went down there and they had me fill in and do a couple little things here and there, and then Axel called up MTV, went down with me to audition, so I kind of got the gig that way. So
by having one of your friends,
yeah, it doesn't hurt having the biggest rock star in the world make some calls for you.
What year was that?
1989.
Oh my goodness, man, 1989. Talk to me about some of the other groups that may not have been from Hollywood, but that that you remember that were
everybody. I mean,
you had like groups from New York, the New York State area.
Every band in the world. Every band in the world. I mean, every rock band. There's not a band that I didn't work with. I mean, I remember when I just started there. And I'm like new. I've never interviewed somebody, and they're going, "Okay, you're going to go to London to interview Aerosmith." I'm like, I am. And then I'm working with AC/DC, and I'm just a rock fan. I'm not a journalist. So when I'm working with all these people, it's like I'm just like it was a little mind blowing, but it was really fun.
And some of your favorite bands that maybe weren't from around Hollywood that you actually rubbed shoulders with.
Pantera. Oh God, now it's too hard to remember because it was everybody. I mean, you got to listen to the podcast.
Definitely. And it's called
Can I put some of these on the bar? CATHOUSE HOLLYWOOD PODCAST.
Okay, Ricky, man, it's a pleasure.
Thank you, my friend.
Finally make your acquaintance.
That was our interview with the legendary Riki Rachtman. We thank Ricky for making time from his busy schedule. Thank you, bro. We appreciate it here at J-Rock's Metal Zone and That Metal Interview Podcast. And of course, thank you to our very own Adrian A.D. Ibarra. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Visit us on social media: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Reddit, Pinterest, Flickr, Twitch, Periscope, Snapchat, Tumblr. Log on to jrocksmetalzone.com and, of course, to our podcast on SoundCloud, amongst other formats. And we'll see you next time on That Metal Interview Podcast. Keep it metal.
That Metal Interview.